Hello, LinkedIn makers and movers. Our guest today is a B2B SaaS veteran and one of the sharpest minds on LinkedIn. His company helps more than 20,000 companies track, benchmark, and analyze their data so they can make better decisions and improve performance. I'm talking about Peter Caputa, the CEO of Databox. And before I pass the mic to Peter, let's take a quick scroll down his LinkedIn profile. His story, I guess, as most of us know it, really kicked off at HubSpot. Back when the company had fewer than 50 employees, he wore many hats, but he's best known for building HubSpot's agency partner program and taking it from nothing to over $100 million in annual partner revenue. Along the way, he founded the Collaborative Growth Network, an agency mastermind for sharing best practices in sales and marketing and channel strategy, which opened the door to advisory and angel investing roles with fast-growing SaaS players like PandaDoc, Drift, Pantheon, PartnerStack. And after HubSpot, Peter took the helm at Databox, guiding the company to the scale that it enjoys today. He turned LinkedIn into his personal broadcast network, and he believes people want to talk to people, not logos. In that vein, since November 2019, he's been sharing lessons on data-driven marketing, growth, and leadership, often backing his points with live Databox charts. And in the past 12 months alone, he's published 330 plus posts, and that's pulled in 3 million impressions, and it sparked almost 40,000 engagements, and he's grown his audience to 33,000 followers. Those posts aren't vanity metrics. They consistently drive about 100 new Databox trial signups every month to the tune of 20,000 paying customers. So if that's not the definition of LinkedIn famous, I don't know what is. So let's give a warm welcome to Peter Caputa. Welcome to the LinkedIn Famous Podcast, the show where we get real about what it takes to build a personal brand on LinkedIn that gets real business results. We're talking about driving revenue from a personal LinkedIn profile by sharing real and authentic stories and points of view. I am Brad Zomick, your host and the founder of Spectrumer, a personal brand consultancy that helps founders and executives get LinkedIn famous. Join me for unfiltered conversations from the trenches of LinkedIn. We'll meet CEOs, go-to-market executives, subject matter experts, and company employees with blockbuster LinkedIn results. We'll unpack strategy and leave you with tactical advice to grow your personal brand and demand for your company's products and services. All right, LinkedIn hustlers, it's time to level up.
Thanks, Brad. I'm going to hire you as my PR guy.
Oh, great. We'll talk about that after the podcast. And is there anything about your background that you want to double click on?
Oh, you did a pretty exhaustive recap of it. I would say that I love startups and I love helping small businesses and startups. That's my kind of passion. Before I joined HubSpot, I had my own startup where we were helping small businesses and event producers market online. And ever since then, that's kind of been a theme in my world at HubSpot. It's definitely started helping small businesses, and they've moved upstream, of course. But the partners that I worked with early on at HubSpot were all very small businesses, some of them just one guy at the dining room table. And then at Databox, we're firmly in the small mid-market range in terms of who we help, including lots of also partners that are marketing agencies, rev ops agencies, business consultants, etc. So love helping people grow their business using the web and data and all that fun stuff.
Yeah, and you're doing it even for beyond Databox with the millions of eyeballs that see your content in the LinkedIn feed all the time.
Yeah. It starts with getting people to think differently, right? Before I can help them oftentimes.
I see you doing that all the time in the feed. So maybe you could tell us a little something about yourself that the audience couldn't learn from you and your LinkedIn presence.
Ooh, I am an avid flower gardener. I have massive perennial beds that I attempt to maintain with hundreds of different types of herbs and flowers and trees. So when I'm not fingers on the keyboard, I'm usually hands in the dirt playing around in my gardens.
Oh, you got the green thumb. I think I need a little help from you over here. I feel like every plant that we put in the ground doesn't seem to make it. So let's go back to the beginning of your LinkedIn journey. What was going through your mind at the time that you decided to start investing there?
Yeah. So I've always published, like since the early part of my career. Even before I started a startup, I had a blog. We called them weblogs back then,
Yeah.
where I'd write about sometimes random things, but more business stuff. And actually, when I started my startup, I still had a full-time job. So I was kind of like using the blog as a way to get our ideas out there and get feedback from people. And so I've always been passionate about building an audience, learning from people, supporting people, and using publishing as a way to stay in touch, but also gather feedback and information and knowledge from the people I'm working with. And so always done that for a while. I stopped writing longer form stuff and got hooked on Twitter. This was literally 15 years ago. So did Twitter for a long time. That became kind of my outlet. I got used to writing those really short, somewhat pithy tweets and kind of got out of the longer form stuff. But then my last year at HubSpot, all I did was write. I wrote for the sales blog. So I wrote like 42 articles that were all 5,000 word plus.
Wow.
Articles. And so got back into the groove. At Databox, I kind of got away from it again. I was on Twitter and using Twitter as kind of a community building feedback mechanism. But then when Elon Musk kind of took over, or saw the writing on the wall there, I moved on from Twitter. And at the same time, or right before that, I had seen a lot more B2B companies, CEOs, founders, marketing execs writing a lot more on LinkedIn. Definitely look up to David Cancel and Dave Gerhardt at Drift, who I think really pushed the limits on LinkedIn publishing as they were building Drift in the early days there. And so jumped onto LinkedIn and just said, all right, well, I'm going to do this. Around the same time, we also started seeing like organic search drop. This was about 2 years ago. It just was really hard to grow organic search traffic and the leads we get from organic search. So the way I saw LinkedIn, it was kind of like as a replacement to some degree for lost organic traffic. But as I got into it, I realized that LinkedIn is so much more. It's more than just like a traffic or lead acquisition tool, but it's really like a full stack kind of service where you're not just marketing to people who don't know you, but you're also marketing to people that already know you and are following you. So it's kind of nurturing. You're also marketing or educating people who are already customers of ours, right? And then in our world where we have partners that resell our product, I'm also engaging those partners and not just educating them, but also showcasing them and what they're doing, helping them grow their reach at the same time. So it's really a full stack kind of marketing. And that's just marketing. I think it's also really helpful for sales. A lot of the posts that I write are around gathering feedback. So I'll run polls, I'll share an idea, I'll share a problem that we have, and I'll ask for perspective or opinions on how we can fix it. And so I'm learning as much as I'm teaching, I think, on LinkedIn.
That's amazing. And it sounds like today it's a really robust tool for you and Databox. In the early days of investing, going back to when you got started, were there any challenges that you faced switching over from the short form into LinkedIn? Yeah.
It was. I definitely like thought about it and contemplated it for a while. I feel like I had to do, if I was going to do it, I had to do it right, which meant posting regularly. And so I had to really evaluate what else I was doing and what was possible. Around the same time as when we started to build out a bigger management team as well as a bigger marketing team. And so I was able to kind of leverage both, right? I could delegate things that I didn't need to be involved in so that I could spend more time writing and publishing on LinkedIn. And then also, especially in, say, the last few months, as we brought on a new director of content marketing, I don't have to spend as much time on the research side of things as I used to, nor on that first draft. Like, she's often giving me that first draft that I can work with. So now I have a pretty good system. It's down to about an hour or two tops per day in terms of the time that I'm spending writing and publishing on LinkedIn.
It sounds like you went through an evolution and you actually started to hint at have a team and a system built around you to get the maximum impact from the data that you have, the stories that you have to tell, the insights you have to share. What does that approach look like today?
Yeah. The first thing I would say is we do a lot of primary research in our marketing team. I think the mistake that a lot of marketers have made over the last decade or so is that their research involves starting with keywords and then reading what's already published and then trying to write a better version of that. So it's really not very additive to the corpus of the web in terms of what we're all learning from. And now with AI, that becomes even easier, right? Somebody can literally just write a few prompts and write a better version, better and quote air quotes version of an article. So what we do, and what we've done really for 8-9 years, is we do a lot of primary research. So there's 2 or 3 things that we do. One, we create surveys where we ask a lot of multiple choice questions. So we're gathering data from 100, 200, sometimes 300 or more people on a specific topic, and then we use that data to write content. So the data gives us a perspective or an opinion or an insight that we can then share, which provokes more conversation. Second is we reach out to experts and we say, hey, we're writing on this topic. What's your perspective on it? What have you done that's worked on that related to that topic? What are you planning to do next? And that gives us, again, more insights that we can share where we're quoting other experts. And if you ask 5, 10, 20 people the same thing, you start to see patterns, and we can then share the overall insight. And the third thing we do is we interview our customers and our partners all the time about what they're working on, how they're using Databox, getting their perspective on new things that we launched. And we're using that data, or those interviews, turning those interviews, into video clips, turning those interviews into customer stories, quoting them based on exactly what they say, weaving that into stories, et cetera. So a lot of that primary research is what ultimately feeds all the content that I'm publishing.
You make a great point, and you can almost see it in the search results these days. When you go into, I'm sure in every category this exists to some extent, whatever the head term is, like every article almost looks the same, and they're quoting the stats.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. The number, I think marketers are like, oh, I want to make a statement like 50% of the 7% of marketers are publishing on LinkedIn, but 32% have a plan, right? It's a real stat, actually. Maybe I got the wrong numbers exactly, but the numbers are close. It's a real stat we've gathered. Now what's going to happen is somebody's going to Google that and then quote it, but not reference it. And then it's going to get contorted into something else, right? That's what marketers have done over the last 10, 20 years, content marketers. And yeah, so we've prioritized collecting that data and having our own original stats.
Oh, that's awesome. So that kind of drives the strategy. And what does like the, I guess, process look like, and how much do you have planned out, let's say, looking out from here?
Yeah, so we have a bunch of editorial planning processes. Again, it starts with customer research. One of the things that we do is our marketing team actually looks at all of our customer interactions in order to find things that we should write about. So what we'll take is all call transcripts that we have with prospects and customers. We'll take all chats that we have, like in-app chats that we have with customers, and we'll take all customer tickets that we have where customers say, hey, I need help with this. And from that, we use AI to identify the common themes of things. Why do people buy? How do they compare us to our competitors? What problems are they solving? What use cases do they have with our application? And that kind of comes the basis of our editorial planning, combined with like, what are we planning to build new this quarter, right, in our software? And so once we have that information, then it's a matter of designing that research. So it could mean designing a survey. It could mean asking 20 experts the same question, open-ended question, where we're gathering quotes. It could mean going and talking one-on-one with customers. It could mean finding podcast guests that can speak to those topics. So that's the plan, the high level planning. As far as like my LinkedIn post planning right now, as of now, I think I have 10 days scheduled ahead. It's probably a record.
Good for you.
It's taken us a while to get here, but I probably have about posts scheduled for the next 10 days. And I scheduled every single one of those this morning, because my marketing team, based on that research that they're doing, based on the podcast they're recording, based on the surveys we're running, based on the customer interviews that we're doing, based on the product releases that we're doing, they're taking that stuff and feeding me posts. And they actually even have what they call PeteGPT. It's a custom GPT that they set up in ChatGPT that actually has all of the content I've ever written. And they can use that, feed in a transcript, say, of a customer call or data from a survey, and it'll spit out posts based on the insights from the survey or quotes or themes from the interview with the customer. So that's how they're producing it for me. Then what it does is it goes into Asana in a Google Doc, and they put it there as like ready for Pete to review. So I go into Google Docs. Sometimes I leave comments and feedback. Sometimes I just rewrite or edit it directly there. And then from there, I publish or I schedule. I use AuthoredUp for scheduling LinkedIn posts.
That's a quite the robust system. And the last mile, I guess, is really where you put your stamp on things and make it uniquely you.
Yeah, there's not much that no knock on them or PeteGPT, both PeteGPT, and they do a great job. But there's not much that I post that isn't pretty much at least 50% rewritten. Take the source material and I oftentimes change the angle. Sometimes I don't change the angle. I like the angle they came up with, but I'm adding either my own personal perspective or my own story that I have from my career that backs up the point just to make it come more from me.
Got it. And what about commenting? How do you allocate time for that? What's your approach?
I'm pretty random about it. I know there's people that are much more purposeful about it. I basically just follow people that I find interesting and I look at my feed, and pretty much when I look at my feed, I see something that's interesting after a handful of posts. There's certain people that I comment on regularly that I really like, and I have personal relationships with those people. They might be a reseller at Databox, or it might just be somebody that I really admire or learn from consistently. And so I'll tend to pay attention to them or usually be a little more inclined to ask them a question or clarify or share my experience on their posts with a comment.
You're a busy guy, right?
The hard part of LinkedIn is that I think for B2B is that it's a lot easier, right, for me as CEO with my experiences, the fact that I know or have worked in our target market for 20 years. Like, it's really easy for me to like gain a following, engage that following, etc. The hard part is then like turning that into business. And there's some things we do, but I don't have time to go and like talk to 10 people, 20 people a day, whether in comments or in DM. So I think that's the hard part of LinkedIn is like turning that visibility and then engagement into opportunities for the business. Because I just, as CEO, right, I have a million other things that have to take priority.
Yep.
Having one-on-one conversations on LinkedIn.
I respect that as a CEO. The buck stops with you. So You've made this very efficient system. How much time do you think you invest in LinkedIn with this streamlined process? If I add
commenting and then private conversations and stuff, I'm guessing about 2 to 3 hours a day.
Okay, so still quite a bit.
I still invest a lot of time. I know that if I could spend another 2 hours, I could find 10 sales opportunities for us like a day. I just like I have to like manage our finances, make sure our strategy is on pace, manage my my team. Like again, I have great management team at this point, so I don't need to be in the details of a lot of things, but there's still a million things I got to do besides promote Databox on LinkedIn.
You mentioned your research strategy. I had the fortunate opportunity of being on a panel for the Debug webinar series, the Databox user group. And there in May, there was a deep dive into LinkedIn. I wonder if you could share some of the big takeaways from that, or your favorite takeaways from that session.
Yeah, there was quite a few. I think like the big takeaway from the research so far is that most companies realize that publishing is the most important part of doing LinkedIn. However, not many of them have a formal strategy for it. Like you mentioned, like you just remarked that like our process is very robust, right? I don't think most people do more than like wake up in the morning and say, I think I'm going to post something today. That's their extent of their strategy for LinkedIn. And so I think that's the biggest takeaway is that. However, most people also recognize it's the most important activity of the three that we surveyed, which was posting, prospecting, and advertising. So most people recognize that if you're not posting, your prospecting isn't going to be as effective and your advertising isn't going to be as effective on LinkedIn. So I think that was the big takeaway is like, if you're going to do LinkedIn, start with a regular posting cadence so that you can kind of engage your audience, have a chance of engaging your audience, and then layer in prospecting and or advertising on top. There were a lot of great people on that call, so lots of great insights. One of the ones that I really liked and I agree with 100% was from Marcus Sheridan. He's the author of They Ask You Answer and Endless Customers. Marketing thought leader, speaks on amazing stages around the world, teaching people how to market and sell better. And one of the things that he pointed out is that LinkedIn is a great stay in touch marketing tool, right? It's maybe not the best tool for connecting with new prospects because everyone's a little skeptical and all that. But if you're using LinkedIn to engage the people already following you, the people that maybe saw you speak at an event, people that you worked with 10 years ago, right? Your existing customers, et cetera. If you're using LinkedIn for that, it's an amazing tool. And that he finds specifically that when he thinks of it that way, a lot of people that have been following him for a while kind of come out of the woodwork on LinkedIn and reach out to him and say, hey, let's do business, right? Or, hey, can I talk to you more about our marketing strategy? And that's an opening, of course, for him to engage them in some kind of service that he might provide. So that was the biggest one. I feel the same way. I take it to the next level and actually say that I think it's like the best tool you can have for engaging your customers and your partners, because you can only send so many emails to your customers, for example. In our world, we ideally want them logging into our product every day. And so if we're going to email them, it's going to be about, hey, here's something new you can do in the product, or hey, here's something you should do in the product because other customers like you do. But if I can get them to follow me on LinkedIn, that's 30 times a month, 30 posts each day, that you're going to see something related to Databox that's going to reinforce the value of our product and maybe get them to log back in and check something out. So I think for me, it's much more about customer marketing, partner marketing than it is about new prospects.
I love those points. And back to the point you made about events, it's almost like this connective tissue between the events, right? 'Cause that's where the real human connection happens. And then you follow on LinkedIn and it extends the interaction of that relationship. And I think, as you point out, it's just this powerful nurturing tool, whether it's an active prospect or an existing customer. It's not interruptive. It's just there where they're passively surfing through, and a great way for them to discover new ideas. So I really dig that.
There's also two other things on that call that were kind of new for me. And I kind of addressed two problems that we actually have. One was from Amber Chemis, where she talked about syncing LinkedIn activity with the HubSpot CRM or with CRM in general. And that's something that we're actually looking at more now. And then the other one you mentioned, which is something that we also struggle with, is like really paying attention to the signals and using the signals that you get from that engagement to use that for further engagement. I think those are two things that were kind of covered on the session that were interesting to me.
That's like a new frontier. What I've seen is there are certain posts, if you engage in, people are using these tools where you like or comment, and like all of a sudden you're getting swarmed. And I think that was the comment that I made. Just a single engagement maybe doesn't mean anything. But I do think that the new frontier is this kind of aggregation of signals from LinkedIn and feeding into the CRM. Because I hear more and more that people are doing it, and are you familiar with how Databox is trying to accomplish this?
We're looking at a few tools. There's a tool called HubLead that Amber actually mentioned that syncs signals from LinkedIn over to this contact record on the CRM. And it's not crazy expensive. It's not inexpensive either. The alternative is using Sales Navigator, where you can see at the very expensive version of Sales Navigator, where you can pull the data directly into the interface of HubSpot, but it doesn't actually append the data HubSpot records. So I don't know about that option. The other thing we're looking at is doing a centralized inbox where other people would be able to draft responses for me or for the sales team as we do outreach. We also do very targeted list building and outreach. So we'll look for, say, 30 people who have an expertise with Salesforce's deal management properties or something like that, right? And we'll build that list, and then we'll reach out to them and say, hey, we're putting together some content related to this. Would you be willing to contribute? So we use a tool for that. We use Dripify for that. And then I use AuthoredUp for scheduling and then analytics as well to see how posts are doing. We use that, I should say.
All right. That's a good little LinkedIn stack there.
It's it adds up. It adds up. So these are one at a time tools.
I had another data question, because I know you also have two fairly large data sets on company page performance and paid ads. Are there any interesting high-level insights that you see coming from those data sets?
So we do have a tool called Benchmarks. You can actually go and check it out at benchmarks.databox.com. once you get there, you can basically say, show me the benchmarks you have for LinkedIn ads for companies of this size or industries, or in companies in this industry. And you can start to look and see that and then compare your own performance to it. It's much more of like a comparison of like how you're doing right now versus other companies. We sometimes can see trends, but they're not always discernible. And I haven't necessarily seen any trends in the data. We did see a while ago, like drop off of engagement from LinkedIn company pages, but that's not new news. That's been something I think most people have noticed for a long time now. So yeah, not much else. We can also look at like benchmarks for LinkedIn ads, say versus Google ads or Facebook ads, and I'm guessing you could probably understand the conclusion is LinkedIn ads, the CPM is a lot higher, but what we see also is that the targeting is significantly better, and the conversion rates as a result are strong enough to justify the higher CPM or cost per click. Those are some things that we see in our data, but it's generally not like cutting edge stuff like we're seeing it as other people are seeing.
Sure. And you make one really good point in there up front. It's all about benchmarking against a company of your size and characteristics. I think too often people get caught up in data that's a real general data set and interpret that as gospel, but probably
people put together insights from a data sets of one. Like it's not legitimate, right? It's like I've observed that my post reach has gone down over the last 3 weeks. LinkedIn must have changed their algorithm. So I think there's a lot of people out there making conclusions from incomplete data sets. So I think it's really important when you're benchmarking or comparing your own performance that you're doing it from a data set that's relevant to what you're doing.
Let's transition a little bit into your own data and impact. I'm curious how close you and your team are monitoring your own performance and what you're checking up on and what you use that to inform.
Yeah, so there's a bunch of different ways. Unfortunately, there's no like one perfect way to measure LinkedIn marketing impact on sales, right, of the funnel. And of course, it's even harder to figure out like how is LinkedIn impacting my customer retention or upgrade volume, things like that, right? So a lot of LinkedIn, I've just basically pay attention to the feedback I'm getting from people, right? Yeah. If somebody reaches out to me and says, I've been following you for a year, I just talked to your sales rep, they're amazing, by the way. And that to me is like, I know that I drove that and it wouldn't happen without, or the marketing team, and I drove that without, and it wouldn't happen without. And so I get those kind of messages all the time. But however, we do measure a bunch of stuff. The first thing we look at is reach and resonance. So we're looking at like what content got reach and resonance. And usually they're tied together, right? Because the more engagement you get on a piece of content, the more reach it gets generally. So we're looking at that to see what content might have driven things. The second thing we do is we occasionally, try not to abuse it, we occasionally say, comment below for access to this resource. So that we'll come up with resources that we know will help us put people into our sales funnel. And then I'll write something that's provocative that says, companies that do X are sucking wind right now. You should do this instead. And here's the playbook and here's the ebook. Comment below to get the ebook, right? And so we do that. So we can then measure that. So like we did an ebook the other day called How to Sell Business Intelligence as a Service. The target is marketing agencies, RevOps firms, business consultants. And I think I got 180 people to say I want that from one LinkedIn post. We then put some ad dollars behind it. So I still get like one or two every day or so of people saying, hey, I want the ebook. So the kind of the combination of being able to get something going organically viral plus ads is driving deals directly into our funnel. And then lastly, of course, we sometimes put links and put tracking parameters so that we can track directly either through Google Analytics or HubSpot or Mixpanel or any one of the tools that we use to track sources of leads. But then the thing that I really rely on most is our what we call self-reported attribution. So whenever anyone signs up for a trial of our product, we ask them, how did you first hear about us? And it's an open text field, so they type in what they heard. I think we actually followed up with a close-ended one with drop downs to just kind of verify that we captured the right information. And in that, we can see that 24% of our signups for trials come from some social media site, inclusive of LinkedIn, YouTube, Reddit, Facebook, etc. A smaller percentage of that, it's like mid-single digits, come from LinkedIn, where people heard about us there first. but that is kind of a big driver. If we didn't have that self-reported attribution and we only relied on people clicking a link from our social media to over to our website, we would not be able to justify any time on social media. We ask that question, how'd you hear about us? We get a much higher percentage of people saying it. Also, a big portion of people that answer that question say they heard about us from somebody else, like word of mouth, referral, etc., which is a huge portion of the leads. And I know that social media drives word of mouth, right? So if I do a webinar or podcast with you, right, like we've done both now, and you talk about that's word of mouth that I'm kind of facilitating through this process of content co-creation. And so that I kind of also give credit to social in a way, right? Like we probably wouldn't have met without LinkedIn, and we wouldn't be doing this podcast, and you would probably not share any clips of me after this podcast recording if we did first meet on LinkedIn. And so I think word of mouth is really accelerated through social media, and to kind of give social media some credit for that as well.
I think it's a fair point. That's a pretty robust set of mechanisms to attract.
Yeah, we are a business intelligence software company, so we have to be as thorough as we can.
So let's talk a little bit about impact beyond the business. Like clearly it's been very impactful for Databox. Were there any surprising impacts on your personal life, or just surprising impact to you, whether positive or negative, of becoming LinkedIn famous?
The hat. Thank you for the hat. That was
looking good.
I still have to break it in, and I can't really wear hats with my glasses, but I do wear a hat, especially since I need to protect myself from the sun these days.
Same here.
So I'm sure I'll get some use out of it. Thank you. Things that I've kind of learned outside the business. I hadn't really thought about that too much. I enjoy writing and networking and helping people. Like that is my motivator. At this point in my life, in my career, I still have financial goals, but like that isn't my main driver. My main driver is really the impact that I can have on other people. And when I was like maybe like in my 30s and stuff like that, other people said that to me, and I said that's bullshit. So I could understand why people would think I'm bullshitting, but generally that's where I get satisfaction now, is being able to help a customer, help a partner grow their business. And so for me, it's intertwined. Like I can't say that's personal or professional. Like I get meaning out of that, and I know that's happening because of my LinkedIn effort, right? Like a contact of mine wrote a post asking a question about when should you create deals in your sales funnel, and I responded with what we did at HubSpot, what we do at Databox, and why. And she's like, "Oh, that's exactly the answer I was looking for. We're going to do that," right? So, like I know that I'm helping people by sharing what I know. And I know what I'm helping people by doing research and sharing what other people are learning and doing as well. So that's really what drives me with LinkedIn.
Well, it's awesome that it's net positive and not only professionally rewarding, but also personal.
Yes.
So we're getting towards the end of the episode. It's time for the LinkedIn lightning round. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
All right. So what advice would you give to someone who wants to start building their LinkedIn presence today?
Go out and interview 2 to 3 of your customers or prospects or partners related to how you help them. So hopefully in your business, kind of the problems you solve for your clients, your customers. So go out and interview people who are doing that or want to be doing that, or you're directly helping do that, and use that as what you write about. That's it. It's like, that's as simple as it should be, and as complex as it needs to be. It doesn't need to be any more complex.
I like that. And if you record the interview, it could also be video content as well.
Exactly.
Or audio and podcasts and YouTube.
But even if you're nervous about recording, or they're nervous about recording, just go interview them. You can make the story anonymous. Still quote them and just say, a client of mine who's in this industry, right? But that's how you create content easily, is you go out and you talk to the people that you're helping or that you want to be helping, and you share their story.
I dig that. If you were running LinkedIn for a day, what is the first thing that you'd change?
Oof. I would convert LinkedIn to what the original RSS aggregators were before Google killed them. I don't know.
Elaborate, please.
Yeah, okay. So people aren't going to follow that. So back in the day when blogging was started, this is early 2000s, and was started to get popular, the way that we would subscribe to a blog was by taking the RSS feed. It was short for really simple syndication, so kind of self-explanatory. But you take this RSS feed. When you looked at the RSS feed, you couldn't read it as a human. You could, but it was complicated. It's like HTML and RSS and text combined, right? And so you would feed that RSS feed into an aggregator or a reader, an RSS reader.
I remember those.
And then then you'd log into your, instead of going to like 10 different blogs or 20 different blogs, you would log into your RSS reader and it would notify you which of the blogs have published something new. You'd have a little number next to them. It's like Mark Short published 3 new blog posts. And if they didn't publish something since the last time you logged in, it would just be not bolded and you wouldn't see a number next to them. So you could very quickly, and also there was a feed. You would just go at the start at the top and you would just be able to scroll from one blog post to the next from any of the blogs or all the blogs that you were subscribed to. So it was a really amazing way to subscribe and efficiently read from a lot of people. And you could then click the article, go to their website, leave a comment if you wanted, etc. So it was kind of like reading your LinkedIn feed, except that you had control over it. The thing that I hate about LinkedIn is that they've got algorithms controlling what I see. Now, they're pretty darn good algorithms. Like I told you before, I go to my feed and I usually find something I find interesting that I want to comment on or whatever. However, I want more control. I want to be able to say, these are the 30 people that I absolutely want to see everything from. I want to see what the engagement is on that and control whether or not I'm responding to things with 10 or 20 comments, right? I want to group people into different folders like I could with an RSS feed where I say LinkedIn publishing experts, and I'd put you in that, right? I'd put other people that do that kind of work in that. And if I wanted to go think about my LinkedIn publishing processes, I'd go to that folder and read everything from you guys from the last whatever time, that last month or week or whenever the last time I looked at that feed was. So I want more control over who I'm reading in my reading experience. And I think they need to do that because it's actually really frustrating for both the reader and the writer to be controlled by an algorithm as opposed to letting individuals control what they read.
That's a very interesting and great suggestion. Especially, I don't know if you noticed recently, they're starting to show posts that are like 2 and 3 weeks old over the last couple.
Yeah, I saw people writing about that. I didn't notice it myself, but yeah, no, it does feel like they run these little experiments where sometimes I'll get like crazy engagement, and then the following week it's not. Now I hate blaming algorithms for things that are probably my fault, so I rarely ever vent on this or even write about it. And it could be what I'm writing isn't good enough or resonating or whatever, but it does feel like they're playing, or at least I suspect that they're playing, and everybody else suspects that they're playing with the algorithm instead of just giving us the control. They can still put their ads in there. They can still put sponsored stuff in there. It shouldn't affect their monetization, but they should give us more control over.
All right. Well, maybe after Databox, we'll go join LinkedIn. Question: do you think LinkedIn in its current form is overrated or underrated?
I think it's still underrated. I think, again, maybe a byproduct of the algorithm, I think people are too focused in on getting those new followers, those new customers to find them. And as a result, everybody's thinking, how do I play the algorithm to get as much reach as possible? And I think that kind of creates a bad incentive. And so I think because of the behavior of the people on the platform, I think in some cases it's probably overrated. However, if people just behave differently and they focused on writing for their existing followers and their existing customers and existing partners, I think they'd be able to build community on that, their own little community, despite the algorithm, despite what everybody else is doing. And that's really my approach. Like, I don't obsess over reach of every one of my posts. I write about what we're doing, about what our customers are doing. I write our customer stories. I don't care that it's promotional or it might seem promotional to somebody. I'm writing because I want to build that community around our business of people who are following along because they're paying us for our software and they care, right? And so that's the way I look at LinkedIn. And I think if more people focus in on that, then did that, then LinkedIn is extremely underrated. There's lots of opportunity for companies to jump in and build their own little communities there.
Awesome. A couple more questions in the lightning round here to get through.
Yeah, this is supposed to be the lightning round. Sorry.
It's all good. Very interesting responses and informative. Are you an introvert or an extrovert?
I don't know. I think I'm more of an extrovert. I get energy from interactions with people. There are times, though, usually when I'm more stressed, that I kind of crawl into a ball. and need some recovery time. But it's not usually because of people. It's usually because I'm overwhelmed. So I think I'm an extrovert.
Well, that's completely normal. What is a LinkedIn trend that you wish would go away?
Oof. A LinkedIn trend that I wish would go away. I do it now because I feel like it should and it helps our business. But I hate the whole comment for this thing, even though I still do it. I wish that would go away.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, like, I think it's been abused, but the people who are doing it well with good content and a good payoff and paying off, because sometimes you just don't get it, you never hear back from anybody. So I appreciate that.
Where we often use it is like before we create the thing, and it's more of a test to see whether or not there's interest. So like we might be saying, hey, we're going to write an ebook, and we have most of the material ready to go. But before we do, let's write a post and say, hey, we just finished an ebook. You want it? It's coming, or we're about to finish an ebook. If you want it, comment below. So it helps us kind of validate and get pre-interest a bit. So it feels okay.
All right. Well, last one for you. Who do you follow and learn from on LinkedIn?
Oof. I follow a lot of people, even without massive followings. So I would say that probably my number one would be Jay at Kunzo. Jay is, I mean, I should probably know how to explain what he does, but what he generally does is help people write their stories in a way that resonate with their prospects. And he generally works with like individuals like me or founders or entrepreneurs that want to kind of write in a way that's really going to resonate with people, but also write in a way that's like personal to them. So I learn a lot about how to write better, how to tell stories better, etc. from his content.
That's awesome. All right, we're nearing the end of our great conversation together. I just want to thank you for being generous with your time and insights. Everybody, if you're not following Peter, go follow him on LinkedIn, Peter Caputa, the fourth.
The fourth, yes.
Not to be confused with the third or the fifth.
My dad is not on LinkedIn. He's retired. But my son actually just started his own auto detailing business, and so he is now on LinkedIn. So yeah, don't confuse him.
Is there anything exciting going on at Databox that you want to share or promote?
There's so much exciting stuff going on at Databox. The biggest thing is we just released like a major improvement to our product. It's called Datasets. What it allows our customers to do is pull in the full data set from the tools they use. So they can basically log into Databox, authenticate into their HubSpot account, and it'll pull every record, row, object, column from HubSpot into Databox, so they can then do a bunch of things. They can filter that data in Databox. They can merge that data with other data sources. They can do cross-object reporting, can show me all the context where deals are at this stage. They can create new values, new calculations, and then the core of our product is taking that data and allowing them to create a metric, create a chart or visualization from it, put it into a dashboard, put it into a PDF or PowerPoint type report, benchmark it, correlate to it, predict future performance, etc. So that new thing that we built pulls all the raw data in, and we've done that for a bunch of our popular data sources like HubSpot, Shopify, Klaviyo. I'm gonna forget half of them, but a bunch of them, like 20 different data sources, of the most popular software tools.
Well, that sounds very powerful. Everybody go follow Databox and go check out the new Datasets feature. Thanks again, Peter. It's been so great to have you.
Thank you, Brad. Appreciate it. It's been fun.
And until next time, let's stay connected. If you enjoyed this episode, follow Brad and Spectimer on LinkedIn for hot takes and tactical executive branding advice. For the readers in the audience, subscribe to LinkedIn Famous on Substack. And if you really loved this episode, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the podcasting platform of your choice. Until next time, stay bold, authentic, and keep on creating.